Think you accidentally fell into fleet management? Buckle up because you're about to fall in love. The commercial vehicle industry is full of surprises. You might think you're signing on for one thing and then discover a hidden world of opportunity, growth, and yes, even passion. Don't worry, there's some cool trucks involved too. I'm Fletcher, Executive Editor of Fleet Trucking and Transportation, and I'm the moderator of today's webinar sponsored by IntelliShift that will explore the unexpected journey of falling into fleet management and turning it into a fulfilling career. My guest today is Erin Gilchrist, Vice President of Fleet Evangelism at IntelliShift. Erin transitioned from the trenches of fleet management to a leadership role, and she's here to spill the tea on why this industry rocks. Welcome, Erin.
Hello, thanks for having me.
So excited. So get ready as we deep dive into why fleet management is such an attractive career option, how to attract new talent, how to build a fleet fam where everyone feels valued, and how to create a continuous culture of learning to keep things fresh and exciting. But before I continue, if you have any questions for Erin or myself along the way, feel free to drop them into the chat and we'll try to answer as many as we can during our conversation or at the end of the webinar. And if we can't get to your question, we'll make sure to email you after. So Erin, let's go ahead and get started.
Awesome.
So I'm sure you're more than a familiar face and voice to many of the folks on this webinar, but for those who don't know you or your story, I'd love it if you shared a little bit about your journey into the fleet management industry and how you fell into this career path.
Yeah, I love the falling into because that's how it happens for so many of us. So again, hi everyone. I'm so excited to be here. I'm Erin. I'm the VP of Fleet Evangelism, which is an interesting title. We'll talk about that in a second here at IntelliShift. And how I got into fleet management was I started with a background in retail operations and then supply chain and logistics. And then when I was recruited by Safelite Auto Glass, I assumed it was for an operational role. And when I got in the door, they said, you know, we'd love for you to be able to learn the business soup to nuts. So I took on a process analyst role, which sounds kind of boring, but it was really fun. I got to go out and audit locations and really learn the processes of what we did in the glass industry, from the initial call from someone that says, I broke my windshield, to the time that that was billed by Safelite. And so I learned so much in a very short period of time, but I was also, as you all can imagine, a little bit bored. And so I got involved with the philanthropy in the organization and the safety committee in the organization, which was comprised of risk and fleet. And so that's how it happened. I joined that committee to offer my expertise in sort of that OSHA distribution center logistics background that I had, and started to really get intrigued by what they were doing to mitigate risk for the drivers and for the organization. And so when the fleet manager role came about, the risk director said, hey, I think you'd be great for this. You have an operational background. Your customer is, you've been in their shoes. You've been in operations and you can service them. I feel like you'll be great working with them. They already have gotten to know you in this audit role and trust you. So, you know, at first I was kind of like, I don't know anything about fleet. I love cars. I can change my own oil. I'm like, okay, that's about the extent of it, right? And so I said yes. And boy, it's just been, the sky's been the limit since then. I'm really diving in and learning the industry and learning my role. So it was just kind of a fun way to get there. Never expected, but so glad I did 20-ish years ago.
That reminds me a lot of how I ended up getting involved, looking for a role that was a little bit easier while I was going to school, and ended up knowing a lot about cars because my dad loved hot rods. And so I understood engines. I understood how they worked. I had a passion for them in a different way. And it really ended up leading into this fantastic career and journey that is fleet management. What exactly, you kind of talked about a really interesting path that came into it from, process analyst. What actually really attracted you to fleet management, and kind of how did your perspective evolve over time to where it is today as the VP of Fleet Evangelism? It's such a fun title and a different story.
Yeah. So I think, the evangelism part really fits me because I'm someone who I deeply care about things that are going on with my friends, my family, the environment. Um, and so it wasn't a far stretch for me to think about how my own passions so connected with this fleet role that I had just taken sort of blindly, right? And the biggest attractors were the safety aspects and the sustainability aspects. So being able to really affect the safety of people that were driving in and around our drivers, as well as protect our own employees from things that other people were going to do out there on the roadways that we didn't have control over. And so protecting them both in the vehicle, but also just as they did their work out of their mobile workstation, right? And how can I help design this mobile workshop for them to make it safer for them, a more efficient space for them to work in, ergonomically? How could we design it so to mitigate the bending, lifting, twisting that they were going to be doing in their job? And so the safety aspect of it was the biggest attractor. But then as a self-proclaimed tree-hugging hippie, sustainability has always been something, I called it something different growing up. We all did. But sustainability as a topic and as a plan and as a strategy was always something that I knew I would want to cultivate in any organization that I worked in. And being a fleet leader, I had the opportunity to do that at Safelight. And then, of course, continue to be a voice for sustainability and safety in the industry in my evangelism role, which really is comprised of consulting with our prospects and our customers at IntelliShift, as well as being an inside consultant who gets to make sure that everything that we do has people like me, the fleet leader, in mind. And so it's the perfect kind of transition for me from being a fleet leader, because now I feel like I get to be a fleet leader without a fleet, which is a lot less stressful. To those fleet leaders out there listening, you know this.
I think one of my favorite things that you mentioned was it sounds like there's like a very instant impact that you get to make. You get to make a difference pretty quickly in fleet management and in that role. You were talking about being able to really, the safety aspect. You are helping protect your drivers and the public and get them home. But you also help them with the safety element and making a more, ergonomic workstation and keeping them in mind and making instant changes that make a big and lasting impact. I think that's something that can be overlooked sometimes in fleet management as a career, is how quick those differences and impacts can be made.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And even just being able to get the drivers involved. I learned so much from them about what they do every day and how we as a fleet department and as an overall organization can impact their life every day. So that was just so rewarding and fulfilling, for sure.
So as we talked about in the intro, so many of us fell into fleet, both of us included, but we are clearly sticking around. From your experience, what do you think makes fleet management such an attractive career option, even if you're not planning for it? We're not sitting in grade school dreaming of being a fleet manager one day. I mean, that's a really well-known stat. So what is really making this so attractive? And kind of building on that, what are the unique opportunities that this is offering for career growth and personal development?
Right. So when I was thinking about this question, there's so many things that came to mind, but so I'll try to compartmentalize a little bit because there's so many fun things, but I think I'll start with just the variety, right? Fleet management involves a variety of skill sets and tasks. I mean, think about it. We are looking at managing vehicle specifications, the right vehicle for the job. We are managing that vehicle throughout its life. So we're looking at fuel and maintenance and vehicle performance. We're looking at managing big budgets and loads of data. We're thinking about how to keep everyone safe. And we're also thinking big time about how to reduce our environmental impact. So when you think about the variety of things that we as fleet leaders do every day and what it takes to stay up to date on all that. I mean, that's a big job. So variety is fun, the challenge of it. So as I mentioned, doing a lot of different things, it takes time to learn how to tackle these challenges, whether we do them one by one or we have larger, more comprehensive projects. The challenge, the everyday challenge, and that every day is sort of different. So those are a couple. And I think the responsibility of it. Now, some people might not see that as an attractive thing. I do. I love being responsible for the safety of the drivers, the performance of the vehicles, the financial impact that fleet can make on an organization, not from a cost center perspective, but more from a revenue generation perspective. And I've helped a lot of fleet leaders over time envision themselves as revenue generators versus sucking the cost out of their organization with the massive budget that they manage. So I think variety, challenge, responsibility, big things. And then I think to the second part of your question about how does this offer, growth and personal development? Well, think about all those things that I just mentioned that fleet managers have to do to be effective in their roles. So I think if you think about what could be next, so many growth opportunities in fleet management alone, but we can move into areas like transportation, logistics, supply chain, project and change management roles in organizations, because I think we get really good at that as fleet leaders. And operations. I mean, if folks don't think about that as much, but I do, because the operations teams and organizations are the frontline customer of the fleet manager and the fleet department. And so in servicing them, you understand and learn their roles as well. So I think operations is a great avenue as well. So lots of growth opportunity. And then, of course, many fleet managers are managing large portfolios of suppliers and strategic partners. So thinking about switching over to the other side, and like I did, now I get to work for a company who is focused on safety and sustainability and efficiency for fleets. So yay, I get to still do the things that I'm passionate about, but on the strategic partnership side. So lots of great opportunities, in my opinion.
So I'm guessing you're not bored at any point in time. You're staying pretty busy throughout the day. So if there's somebody who is looking for a career choice that they're not sitting there twiddling their thumbs all day, fleet management is absolutely a career option for you.
100%.
We've been kind of waxing on about the positive side, and no career is perfect. I think, fleet is a bit of a beast to wrap your head around. And there's some common challenges, I think, that newcomers are facing when they're entering the fleet management sector. Can you share a little bit about what you see as some of those common challenges and how new folks entering our industry might be able to work to overcome those challenges?
Absolutely. I think the biggest one is knowledge gap. And it's not just a knowledge gap because someone coming into fleet never expected to, like we've talked about, and that's really how it happens. But I think it's a knowledge gap because the industry is so fast moving and ever evolving, right? So you come in and you think you know what you know, and then a minute later, there's something new you should be thinking about. So there's definitely a knowledge gap that's a struggle. Compliance, that's an overarching term, but I mean driver compliance inside of your organization. I'm thinking about compliance with all the different rules and regulations, whether they be federal, state, whatever the case may be. Compliance is an animal, and it's something that you have to learn and understand and drive in your organization. Driver management, right under that. Driver management, it's a big challenge, and it is a learning curve. People management is a learning curve. And we'll get into that a little bit later as we think about, what organizations can do a little bit better there. And then I think organizational change management is another big animal. So those four things are very challenging when you first get into a fleet role. But I think what the good news is, folks, there's lots of good news here, is overcoming those. So think about knowledge gap, compliance. I mean, seek mentorship from experienced fleet managers. I was a mentee for many years and now get to serve as a mentor, which is like such a gift. There's industry associations, there's online resources, training programs, certifications to help bridge the knowledge gap. And then just like staying informed by attending like the industry conferences that we have, subscribing to fleet management publications such as yours, networking with your peers. All these help you to anticipate change and adapt your strategies as you kind of grow and learn into your role. And then finally, I think if you think about the whole change management piece of it, there's a lot of tools and technologies being offered out there that are driving some of those key responsibilities that fleet managers have around safety and compliance and certainly sustainability. So research and compare the different fleet management software options that are out there, hardware options, and really seek out strategic partners, not vendors. Vendors is a bad word. So if they're just a vendor, then they're probably not your buddy or your pal. But if they are a supplier, maybe a strategic partner, and in my mind, a trusted advisor is that top level, seek out companies that want to be an extension of you and your department so they can offer a wide variety of support, implementation planning, training, as well as the hardware and software to boot. So, just seeking out the right partnerships can make or break you in your success as a fleet manager.
And with that, on the partnership side, I have never seen an industry where people are so willing to share with everybody and anybody. We have our editorial advisory board at Work Truck, and listening to them share with each other their challenges. And all of a sudden one goes, I just talked to somebody who can help with that. Let me get you their phone number. It's this cooperative competition that is just fantastic. And I think that it's hard to find somebody sometimes to go and ask these questions, but don't be afraid to. If you see somebody out there who's speaking on a panel, who's at these industry events, they want to share what they know. They want to help. And they love having somebody come up to them and ask them for some questions and advice. There's been so many partnerships and relationships that I've seen grow just because somebody asked a very basic question. Friendships even that have evolved. I absolutely love it. So kind of wrapping this section of it up, what are some of the absolute most rewarding aspects of working in fleet management? What's keeping us engaged and really passionate about coming in every day and doing these fleet management roles?
Yeah, I think one thing you mentioned that this friendships, I mean, over the years, because the fleet management industry is so open and cooperative and collaborative, I have forged friendships that I'll have for a lifetime, and it is just so incredible. And I look back over these 20 years and some of the things I've been through personally, and I'm like, oh my goodness, these people have been with me through all of this. And it is just, that's a very rewarding aspect. But some of the things from a professional standpoint, you mentioned this early on in our conversation, is seeing the impact, right? This big picture impact of what you do. So your decisions that you make daily affect your company's efficiency and bottom line. They affect driver safety getting home every day. They affect environmental impacts that your organization might have because they drive a lot of miles or use a lot of materials. Think about all the things that a fleet manager touches that I talked about earlier. And when done well, the big picture impact that we can have on our organizations, on the environment, on people can be a really strong motivator to come to work every day. So that's the biggest one. I think this problem solving and efficiency wins topic. I mean, I love the problem solving that fleet management is, the logistical puzzles, the inefficiencies, the non-compliance, all the things that we have to sort of wrap our hands around and arms around and find solutions for. That to me is exciting because it has helped me grow as a professional. So identifying inefficiency, implementing solutions, seeing the positive results, those wins are just very rewarding. And what it takes to get there is rewarding as well. And I think, just building relationships and teamwork. We talked a little bit about collaboration is so key in fleet management. You're working with drivers, mechanics, suppliers, and other departments inside your organization to make these initiatives come to life. So building those strong relationships and fostering these successful team environments can be tough, but super rewarding. And I mean, last but not least, with all this sort of the sense of accomplishment that you have from all the things that you'll do or are doing as fleet leaders out there, is the fun part about witnessing the change over all these years. The technological advancements in our industry have been just so prevalent. When you think about technologies like telematics and AI video dash cams, electric vehicles, really data-driven and proactive maintenance strategies. So just being on the cutting edge, being in a cutting edge environment, I'll say that Fleet is super exciting and definitely very stimulating, at least for me. So we could go on and on, but those are my top few, kind of key, exciting things about rewarding things about being a fleet leader.
You talk, growth and evolvement. As we've been going through and refreshing and working through some of our content, I've been coming across several articles that we wrote in the past on how to benefit from Excel spreadsheets for managing your fleets, and why we should really be using Excel versus your paper documentation to really help. And now today I'm writing articles about how AI can now help you generate ideas and plans and programs. And I mean, that's just been in a few decades of time that has changed from let's convince people to use a computer to what would we be doing without one? I think that's been a huge change and a big impact.
Yeah. I mean, think about digital inspections, right? I mean, I can't even imagine now. I'm talking to customer or prospects, on a weekly basis that are saying, we're still using paper. And we're like, oh, we can help you. But just even something as simple as being able to take digital data in and have it connect with other areas of your system so that the work is not manual or on you or on operations leaders. It's just opened up so much time for fleet managers to focus on strategic things and not be buried in the data or the manual processes as much as we used to be. I remember I was there at one point. Yeah.
So
yes, in the trenches.
We've talked about why this is such a fantastic and solid career choice from the point of view of a fleet manager. And this is something I think a lot of people are very excited about talking about and listening for. How can companies in our industry really actively attract new talent who weren't dreaming about being a fleet manager in the third grade? How can we show this as an attractive career option? And how can we really gain more solid, excited people in our industry?
I love this question because I have lots of advice for organizations as it relates to fleet. I'll stick to this topic of how to attract this new talent. But I have lots of other advice on what they should do when they get that fleet manager on board, and then how that role should be valued and looked at. But let's stick to the topic here. I think by sort of abiding by and showcasing some fundamentals of good leadership, let's just say that, inside their organizations to attract that new talent is number one, right? Like work-life balance, learning and development paths that they offer associates in their organizations. I really think revamping their job descriptions around fleet to highlight the importance of the role inside of the organization helps the organization not only think a lot differently and harder about how important the fleet manager is, but then to write a job description that is attractive and showcases all the skills that you and I talked about, today, all the different things that fleet managers get to do, right? That they are afforded the opportunity to do, and then pay competitively. I mean, especially female candidates. When I look at all of these surveys that we do in fleet, and we as female fleet leaders are still underpaid in comparison to our male counterparts. So really, partnering with fleet industry associations to make sure that they round this job description, job offer out, not only to say, here's who we are as an organization, but here's what we can offer you in this specific role. And here's what you should expect to get as a fleet manager. And I think that is a huge new and better step that an organization can take to highlight the role of a fleet manager or fleet director, fleet supervisor inside of the org, and attract that talent that they probably never expected to attract, and attract people that might go, oh, wow, I have all those skills. I never thought about fleet as a career for me, but I have the background to do it. I mean, think of those things, operational skills, somebody that is coming from the supplier side of things who maybe worked with fleets a lot in their career, all the people that they could attract by just selling it a little bit differently and being up to date on really what fleet managers are doing today and what they'll be doing in the next, 5 to 10 years, which is different.
There's a few things that you mentioned in that. I think, one of them, I love that what fleet managers get to do. That is such a great statement because it's true. They get to do so many absolutely amazing things. But there are some gaps and some issues. And I think that networking and really communicating and connecting with others in your industry is one way that you can identify what those gaps are and to start speaking up for yourself and advocating for yourself, and helping these businesses see the value that these fleet managers everywhere are really bringing to these organizations.
And the organization should really be partnering with these fleet industry associations and publications to learn themselves a little bit more about what this person or people in their organization are tasked with. And then really being able to even upfront offer that new fleet leader in their org some training, some certification that the industry offers today, getting out ahead of it.
Then there's a ton of those from NAFA and everyone else. There are a lot of fantastic certification programs to grow knowledge and to show that you are investing in your staff and the people that are investing their time and their lives in your businesses.
Absolutely.
I love it. So I think that's a good kind of segue on, networking in general. What role do these networking events, industry publications, and professional certifications actually play in helping individuals develop their careers? Is it just a few acronyms after a name, or is it really helping them grow and be better in their career choices?
Well, I mean, from my personal experience and from some of my mentors in the past and people that I've been a mentor for, we are all in lockstep in our view about how these events and industry certs and other things have helped us as fleet leaders. They play a huge role. The industry events are a great place to network and talk to seasoned fleet professionals who have been where you are. If you're new, we've all been there. Dial it back 20 years. I had no idea what I was doing. So I attended events. I read and commented in and was a contributor to many, many articles over the years. That helped me stay in tune with what was happening. When I was asked by, yourself and others, at Bobbit to say, Erin, what's your take on that? I was always happy to share because I was so grateful for all the other people who shared that I've been learning from, right? Also, the professional certifications play a big role because it can take you through these top, 6 or 7 aspects of fleet management in great detail. And, there's different levels. If you don't really have the time, you can do, you can step into it. You can do particular modules and you don't have to do it all at once. I remember, doing a Fleet 101 course that was offered by NAFA that was a 1 week long 40-hour course that I took in an offsite location out in, we were in San Diego, and it was fantastic. I mean, that set the stage for me and really put down some roots for me in terms of what needed to be done in my own fleet, and just a way of thinking and compartmentalizing all of the aspects of fleet management, and then what I might do to be successful. And then, asking others along the way, what are you doing? When I'd have a challenge or an issue in my fleet, reaching out to these people I met at these events and saying, okay, so, hey, Lauren, I can't get anyone to do their maintenance. How are you handling that? Oh, Erin, we have this system or this method. And so you learn over time about new technologies, new tools, new partnerships. So again, mission critical, in my opinion, to get involved right away.
I think this is a perfect time to remind everybody we have a Q&A. If you've got any questions to ask either Erin or myself, please make sure you drop your questions in. We do have a question, and I don't know if this is something we're going to be able to answer, but I think this is a fantastic example of reaching out to your industry and seeing if anybody has any advice. We have somebody who's asking about follow-up cadence for fleet customers. They were a retail manager and they're trying to build a process on the fleet side of the world now, but there's no way that the follow-up works the same. And they were wondering if you have any suggestions for a cadence to follow up with their fleet customers. Is there any kind of advice that you might have on that?
So I'm just trying to understand, is this person on the supplier side? And
looks like they would be on the supplier side.
Yeah, that's a good one, because fleet managers, as you've probably picked up on, is it Cody asking this question? Hi, Cody. Yeah, I think the biggest thing to remember is that fleet leaders are incredibly busy. So, sending an email every day or calling every day, that's a tough thing for fleet managers. So if you are trying to develop that relationship with your prospect or customer, I would show up, right? Try to get an in-person meeting, get to know this person, and then they can tell you personally what's going to work best for them in terms of a communication cadence, a follow-up cadence. I work with our sales team at IntelliShift about this all the time, and just kind of, the day in the life of the fleet manager. And a lot of times we're getting emails and answering calls in the morning and at the end of our day, and everything in between sort of busy. So you might focus on those times, but then try to get an in-person meeting.
Love it. So again, if you guys have any questions, drop them in and we'll get through them either at the end or as it comes up through the conversation right now. I thought that was a perfect example of exactly what we were talking about, sharing that knowledge with our audience group out here. So continuing on, we talked about networking events and professional certifications and all of these experiences that we've kind of had. How is these kind of helping you grow? So can you share any real personal anecdotes or experiences about how these different avenues have helped you or maybe others that really actually grow in their roles?
Absolutely. So I shared that I attended the Fleet 101 course, right, and I did that week-long course. So that's one great example that really kicked me off on the right foot to make sure that I was giving the most attention or priority to the most impactful things like people safety and reducing emissions, and then thinking about how I would have an effect on fuel and maintenance and inspections and all the other aspects of fleet management. So coursework is great. So CAFM, CAFS, whatever level you want to get into, but NAFA is one great avenue, and there are others. I would also say that when I first got in, I had this very vast group of suppliers. And I think that's because some of the suppliers that I was working with were also customers of my organization at the same time. So I really had to figure out, okay, hold on. We have all of this going on. How do I net this down? And so I did something unorthodox, imagine that. And I brought everybody together on neutral ground. So I brought together fleet management companies, plural, fuel card, and payment solution providers, the OEMs, all together at my upfitter, which seemed like a neutral place to meet. And we got to know each other. We mapped out, fleet processes, the life cycle of a vehicle. And I really drove the meeting around help me learn. And that was something that me leaning on the industry as a whole, it changed everything. The suppliers in that room that really embraced the exercise are the ones that stayed with me and I kept working with for year after year after year for 15 or 16 years. And they came and they graduated from suppliers to strategic partners to trusted advisors over time because they listened. So really leaning on your supplier network, that's certainly what I did to help learn and grow, is a great personal experience along with my Fleet 101 course. And then I did send one of my fleet administrators through the CAFS with NAFA, and that was a big benefit to him and to the other members of our team when he got promoted to supervisor. So those are a few stories and experiences. I have many more, and I'm sure some of you do too. I encourage you guys to, share with each other as well.
So not every career path starts off on the right foot. Just because we fell into fleet and so many of us stick around and stay doesn't mean that everybody does, or that everybody's really feeling it right now. So how can those who aren't really initially feeling passionate about fleet management cultivate that passion and work to find maybe a little bit more fulfillment in their work and that energy that you so clearly have about this industry?
Yeah, I think about the things that you're personally passionate about and how you can, how those weave into what you do as a fleet leader. So for me, sustainability and my passion for the environment was just a really natural fit. And that's, how I got excited. I love people. I care so deeply about people. So if you love people and people are your thing, think about the effect that you can have as a fleet manager on the people that work for your organization and for the people that are driving alongside of your drivers on the roadways. So try to find a personal connection between what you're passionate about and something that relates in fleet management. I would also look at the challenges and issues that you're facing as a fleet leader. What in your organization needs fixed? What as a fleet manager, where are those gaps? And then dig in. I identify the challenges, do it one by one. And I guarantee you when you do that, you're going to see the impact that you're having and get more and more excited. And then push on your supplier networks to bring new ideas to the table that are going to help you fulfill your work to be successful in your job. Again, when you're success, who doesn't get happy when they experience successes? So really lean on those suppliers and say, hey, tell me what I can do to get better at this. And how can we, and share your initiatives and goals with them and have them be accountable for helping you reach those goals. And last but not least, get involved in the industry. We will help you get excited. If you're not excited now, we can help you get excited about the fleet industry and all of the things that it offers you in your career and just having success inside your role in your organization.
No, I think I'd challenge anybody to find either of us at an event, talk to us for 5 minutes and not leave feeling beyond excited about the industry that we've chosen. There's something palpable about it. It's absolutely amazing. And this is actually kind of a great tie-in. We've got a question from one of our audience members, and it actually, I think, is almost the answer to the next question I was going to ask you. So what my next question was going to be, as our industry evolves, what do we really see as key opportunities for our seasoned professionals and our fleet management newcomers? And then we have a question from our audience that, with AI and electric vehicles in mind, what are the biggest challenges facing fleets? And I think these kind of are two things that are really hand in hand. I think EVs, AI, sustainability are a few of those challenges and opportunities that are out there for fleet professionals. What are you seeing with this and with opportunities, AI, EVs, all of this stuff that's kind of growing and changing as we're literally having this conversation right now?
Yeah, perfect. So great question, Bo. Thanks for asking. So again, you named some of them: embracing new technology, right? Sustainability, planning, and execution. It's one thing to say it. It's another thing to plan it and do it. And I love it. I help people with their sustainability plans all the time. So reach out to me. Evolution of EVs and their impact on the industry. And I say the word evolution because we hurry up and wait, on this topic, right? For fleets and organizations, I think, AI and these evolving technologies are your friend. So if you're not embracing them, you're behind the eight ball. So definitely embrace them. But those are definitely some new things coming up. And how do you what do you do? Well, learn, right? First off, think about yourself. Have a personal sustainability plan, right? Health, wellness, continuing education, keep yourself relevant, right? And the organization, the fleet industry can help you do that. And then organizations should pay close attention to what's happening in the industry. These challenges around adoption of AI video dash cams, critical, they're coming. So it's not about if, it's about when. You got to protect your people. And that's just one way, one of the many ways you can. So organizations should pay attention. They should challenge their fleet departments to find new and exciting ways to enhance safety, driving down emissions and being on the top of their efficiency game. So I think that, this evolution will continue. Those are definitely some of the hot topics, but organizations and newcomers to fleet, there's some anecdotes for you. Learn, right? Keep your ear to the ground and use the industry to help you grow. And then work on your own personal brand. That's something I'm trying to do every day, to keep myself educated and relevant in the industry so I can pay forward all the things that I've received, as well as continue to learn and grow alongside of my friends and partners and industry partners like you, Lauren.
I think that's another benefit of this industry is you can't stop learning. You will definitely not thrive if you stop at any point in time. We need to continuously want to learn and grow and be better versions of ourselves tomorrow than we were today. And it's really making a good fleet manager. On the AI side, I think that, as a journalist, that's really impacted us a lot. And it's been something that's been top of mind for our industry, covering fleet and everything else. And I think one of the best ways of looking at it was presented to me about a year ago. And it had to do with cameras and Renaissance painting and with technology. And back when cameras were first invented, how scared painters were that this was going to take their jobs and was going to make a major impact on their careers. And the ones who thrived found a way to use that tool to make their jobs easier and better, taking photos of people that they could then go and paint at home and take their time more and finding ways to benefit from it. And I think that's just one example of a way that you can use technology to your advantage versus being afraid that it might be doing something you really don't want it to be doing. We have a little bit of time left. We're getting some solid questions in. Please keep throwing those over if you've got anything. I've got one I really want to ask, and it has to do with the attracting of talent. So when we talked about with our question on how we can recruit and get fleet managers, what are some of the more innovative strategies that you've seen companies using to attract maybe younger talent to fleet manager roles?
Those companies are understanding the fleet role themselves, right? They're taking a different view. They're not looking at the fleet manager or someone who's just making sure that they're doing avoidance. What can we avoid? No, they're looking at fleet managers as strategic partners of the organization to help them get to customers safely and on time. and to fulfill their missions and visions as an organization. So the companies that are doing it right are the ones that are taking their mission and vision and in a job description or working with their fleet department are helping them visualize this big picture and how what they do every day impacts the success of the organization. So that's the biggest thing. And organizations that aren't doing that today, they're really missing the boat because there's so many great resources out there for them to use, or they could just call me and I could help them write a job description that'll make fleet management seem way more exciting than they're making it seem today. And really, I think the biggest thing too is organizations changing their mindset around what fleets do, what fleet departments do inside of the org, and how valuable they are and how they can't. If you have a fleet, you need it. So if you are not looking at your fleet department as helping you drive success and results in revenue, then organizations out there, you got to change your tune. Yeah, for sure.
I love it. If you've got a fleet, you need it. And you got to make sure you remember that and keep that in mind while you're going through it.
Yep.
So for somebody who's just kind of starting out in fleet management and wants to advance maybe a little bit more quickly in their career, what kind of advice would you give somebody? They're excited, they're passionate, and they really want to grow and move forward without being pulled, but they want to push it forward and drive it forward, as you mentioned earlier. What advice would you give them?
First and foremost, they should focus on how to enhance safety inside their organization. And the reason I say that is because anything that you're going to do and implement in your org that is safety related is going to cause a snowball effect in your org. So think about the tools, technology, and data that you need to be safe. If you do that first, all of the things that you implement to be a safer fleet will then have incredibly huge impacts on your cost of ownership, and this goes to a cost of ownership question I see from Audrey as well. Audrey, this is the answer to your question too, my friend, is build for safety and everything else falls into place. When you use the data that fleet technology will generate from vehicles and drivers, you will then be able to use that data to impact your fuel consumption, your fuel purchases and buying behavior. You will impact your compliance all around, DOT, inspections, and then, of course, maintenance, another big cost center in fleet management. So build for safety, everything else falls into line. So if you want to fast track, focus on safety and what it takes to just get on a mission to zero accidents, and you'll be the biggest winner. Yeah.
Always a number one goal. And for the person who asked, Dale, yes, we will have this available for viewing. This will be on demand after the webinar is over for you to share with all of your colleagues, your bosses, your supervisors, help everybody get passionate and excited about fleet. So yes, we will make sure this is available for viewing later. Okay, so looking at this then, let's get a little personal again while we have a little bit of time left with you.
Sure.
What's maybe one of the more surprising things you may have learned about yourself through your journey in fleet management?
I thought that I was the best collaborator in the world. And I learned that my passion sometimes got in the way of me involving all of the people in my organization that needed to be involved in these big decisions around safety technology or new tech for the vehicles or new tech for the drivers. And I kind of got in this mindset, well, I know this is going to work. And maybe I did know that these initiatives were going to work, but I didn't get all of the players in the room with me. And I learned, and it's not too late. It's just I learned. And by the time I was able to implement some of these things, yeah, we made great impacts. But if you're just starting out, get that committee together within your organization, and HR, whatever you call that, people management in your org, finance, legal, operations, fleet, get these folks together in a room and talk about the initiatives that you have and what you want to achieve. And then you have all these experts that can help you. You don't have to know everything. And so, yeah, a big mistake I made was thinking that kind of I had to know everything and drive everything. And I wasn't alone. And you're not alone out there either. So that was a tough lesson to learn for me. And then also just really leaning on early on, just leaning on the industry. And that was something that, again, I didn't learn right out of the gate. But as soon as I did and got into the industry, I realized what an amazing resource it was for me. And it has been ever since in my role today and in my role as a director of fleet operations. So those are a couple things, and really just take good care of yourself. Put yourself first sometimes, folks. I know that's hard to do, but a fleet manager's job is big and complicated and ever changing. And so just make sure that you're working on your personal sustainability plan too, like I mentioned before.
I think there's a balance of being confident and knowing that you are skilled and you know what you're doing, while at the same time leaving your ego at the door. I was just watching a video that was a documentary on the We Are the World recording. And I think one of the best things from that video was a sign that was on the door that said, leave your ego out the door. And I think that is so important and valuable for all of us to do sometimes, is to push that imposter syndrome out the door, believe in yourself that you are really good at what you do know it well, but that other people can also be a team and help you do better at what you're doing every single day.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better, Lauren. That's, great wrap up there. I love that. And I think that just because I say this a lot on my podcast, like just because we have to know so many things and we touch so many things in the organization doesn't mean we have to be the expert on all those things, right? So, surround yourself with smarter people than you are.
Yep. I always like to say I might not know the answer, but I can figure out who does. And that has always been something that I can lean on, and always something you can learn about. If you don't know the answer, well, it's now something you get to learn about at the end of the day. So, I'm going to go ahead and wrap some stuff up. I think we've had a fantastic conversation. If you sent a question that we did not get to, we will make sure we follow up via email to answer them individually. To everyone who joined us live, I appreciate your time here today. Erin, it's always a pleasure to sit down and have a conversation with you.
Likewise,
and thank you
friend.
so much to IntelliShift for sponsoring today's webinar and allowing us to have this conversation for everybody. Again, it's going to be available on demand at worktruckonline.com/webinars. So please look for it and share it with your colleagues and friends. Watch it a few more times if you missed anything. We appreciate you all. Thank you.
Thanks so much.